welcome back. If you haven't caught me in earlier sessions, I'm John Staley. I direct outreach and continuing education for the North Carolina Occupational Safety and Health ERC, and I'm BSPH core faculty in the Gillings School of Global Public Health. So we're entering the home stretch with a couple rounds of, excuse me, the pilot project research training recipients, and with a wide swath of research in different directions, capturing laying out a wide net for a variety of occupational safety and health issues. And we've got a really great session here today. So in this one, again, similar to the past sessions, each of our pilot project awardees will present for about 5-6 minutes, and I'll introduce each one of them sequentially. And then we will follow up with a group question and answer from questions from the audience as well as from others. So we'll go ahead and get started. So again, as I said, we've got a variety of great topics today. And the first presenter will be Dr. Addie Reinhard from the University of Kentucky, who has been working on creating and evaluating a pilot online professional development program to enhance well-being for new veterinary graduates. So Addie, take it away.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Addie Reinhard, and I am a veterinarian. So for my pilot project, I developed and evaluated an online professional development program specifically for new veterinary graduates to help support them in the transition to practice. So this project was done in collaboration with researchers from the University of Kentucky and the University of Tennessee with the support of the Southeast Center for Agricultural Health and Injury Prevention. So why did I decide to create a program specifically for new veterinary graduates? Did you actually know that the suicide rate for veterinarians has been shown to be significantly higher than the general population? And female vets have had suicide rates of up to 3 times as high as the general population. Burnout and stress levels seem to be particularly high for young veterinarians, and the start of veterinary practice is a particularly stressful time because of the potential for lack of support and medical errors. The most recent Merck Animal Health Veterinary Wellbeing Study found that among all veterinarians, the young vets had the lowest levels of well-being. There have been numerous studies that have documented poor mental health and well-being among veterinary professionals, but very few studies have actually evaluated, developed, and assessed research-based interventions to support veterinarians. So I created this program because of that, and also because I myself have experienced some of these feelings of stress and burnout throughout my career, and I wanted to develop a program that could help support veterinarians through these difficult times. So the aim of this project was to create and evaluate an evidence-based transdisciplinary virtual program to support new veterinary graduates transitioning to practice. So this program builds community among new veterinary graduates by creating structures for peer mentorship and provides them with training in some non-clinical professional skills so that they'll be able to better cope with some of the most common stressors of practice. Stress, well-being, burnout, and social support levels of the program participants and a control group were measured before and after the program and compared. And learning was evaluated by conducting a retrospective analysis of learning objectives and also measuring pre and post quizzes throughout the learning modules. We also did a qualitative focus group to collect further data regarding the efficacy of the program. So in this study, we had 38 new veterinary graduates participate. We had 7 new grads participate in the program starting in the summer of 2020, and a waitlist control group of 31 new graduates that were offered the program starting in December of 2020. The program consisted of 3 parts. The first aspect was a monthly online learning module on topics such as self-care, leadership, ethical dilemmas, and conflict resolution. And the second aspect of the program was a monthly peer group meeting. So during this meeting, the vets kind of reflected over the module content and how it related to their experiences in practice. And it also allowed for an open space to discuss some of the challenges that they might be facing in practice. And then the final aspect of the program was a private social media group where vets could share and consult in the start of practice, share resources. So before the program, it didn't come as a surprise that the mean stress levels of all the new veterinary graduates in the study were significantly higher than the mean stress levels of a similarly aged cohort in the US general population. After participation in the program, the mean stress levels of program participants were lower than the control group, and the mean exhaustion level, a component of burnout, was significantly lower for program participants as compared to the control group. The mean well-being levels of program participants were higher than the mean well-being levels of a waitlist control group. In addition, for all 5 learning modules, the mean test scores were higher on the post-test as compared to the pre-test, and all self-reported abilities associated with the learning objectives significantly improved after the program. So we're seeing that this curriculum is effective at improving knowledge in these skills, and then the focus group data suggested that the program provided an important support network, and improvements were made in self-awareness, self-care, communication, and decision-making. So the most rewarding aspect of this program was seeing a community forum where vets felt more comfortable for asking for and receiving help regarding stressful experiences. So the virtual aspect of this program allowed vets to stay connected even with pandemic restrictions and vets practicing all over the country. When I graduated 5 years ago professionally, I felt pretty alone in the transition to practice. So it's been really rewarding to see this program that provides that structured support so they feel supported and connected as a community. With the data gathered from this pilot program, it's clear that this can potentially help new veterinary graduates in this transition and this start of practice. So going forward, the plans for this program is to expand it to a national scale for all recent veterinary graduates. So I've obtained substantial support from Merck Animal Health to continue expanding this program, and we'll be working with them as a consultant over the next year to continue growing the program. And I'll be continuing to seek other additional industry support, organizational partnerships, and grant funding to continue growing this program. Thank you.
Fantastic, Dr. Reinhardt. I forgot to mention there at the beginning that she's also a graduate student in the Department of Community and Leadership Development at the University of Kentucky. And I will say, as a member of a family with multiple gerbils, hamsters, and a 22-year-old cat, I appreciate all that you do in your profession. So we will now move on to next is Farzaneh Shahini, is a doctoral student at Texas A&M University, whose research is focused on human automation and interactions in emergency vehicles, which is near and dear to my heart as far as the work with first responders, because that's my area of research. And just to heads up that she's coming to us from Texas, which, as we know, have been heavily impacted by snow and ice, and we'll just be rigidly flexible there with your Wi-Fi and work through that. So Farzaneh, go ahead.
Thank you for introducing me. My name is Farzaneh Shahini, and I'm a PhD student at Texas A&M University. Our research is titled Analysis of Mobile Computer Terminals in Police Vehicles with David Wozniak and Dr. Maryam Zahabi. For the introduction, motor vehicle crashes or MVCs are leading cause of line-of-duty fatalities among police officers, as 1,600 police officers were killed in crashes over the past decade, and crash rates are 2.5 times higher among the police officers as compared to all other occupations. These crashes are mainly attributed to the high-speed driving and in pursuit situation, use of in-vehicle technologies, and fatigue among police officers. And mobile computer terminals, or MCDs, are the most important and frequently used technologies in police vehicles. However, the use of these technologies can cause driver distraction, and as a result, a high number of crashes among police officers. So the objective of our study is to assess the usability issues of MCDs and provide recommendations to improve future technologies. So to do our study, we recruited 15 police officers to participate in 2 separate focus group meetings, and we recorded their videos and conducted a directed content analysis based on Malik and Nielsen's usability principles, such as adaptability, naturalness, consistency, and etc., to find the usability violations. And finally, we use the Krippendorff's alpha coefficient to ensure inter-rater reliability between the analysis of the three reviewers and their ratings. So our results found the most common mobile computer terminal interface usability violations, including the inappropriate presentation of information, mainly due to the overwhelming amount of data showing in one screen, and also cognitive overload, mainly because of providing the irrelevant information to police officers, inefficient interaction, mainly because the screens were error prone, and also lack of consistency because police department used different developers for their MCT softwares, and also lack of adaptability based on the time of the day and night. And also all of the police officers were satisfied about the use of language in their MCTs, that all of them agreed that information was presented in clear words, and they were familiar to the users, so they asked not to change the language of the MCTs. Our research provided some useful guidelines for MCT manufacturers and police agencies. So to improve the consistency, it was recommended that all of the MCT manufacturers use the same structure and guideline to develop the MCT software. And also to improve the adaptability, it was recommended to use adaptable screens based on the time of the day and also individual preferences. In order to reduce cognitive workload, it was suggested to find the most pertinent information and just present the relevant information to police officers. And to provide efficient interaction methods, it was recommended to make change to buttons and icons, so it can be more readily and easily accessible to the police officers. And the takeaways from our study include the end users or police officers should be the center of MCT interface design in order to ensure efficient human interaction systems, so they should be included in the design process. And we should use a human-centered design. And also interface customizability and adaptability is a key to enhance MCTs. Thank you.
All right, Farzaneh, you worked through that well, despite the issues with the internet. So hanging on there, good job. We'll continue to move on. Excuse me. Our next presenter is going to be Dr. Shiyang Su, who is an assistant professor of industrial and organizational psychology at the University of Central Florida. Her research interests include areas of applying, refining, and extending innovative quantitative methods in the study of industrial and organizational psychology, and improving in turn the assessments with better psychometric qualities. And she will be talking with us today about work and non-work interface in health behaviors. So, Dr. Su.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shiyang Su. I'm an assistant professor at UCF. And this project is about work, non-work interface and health behaviors. This is a study collaborated with my colleagues, Dr. Haran and Dr. Jax. And I want to thank ERC for providing the funding, and I also want to thank labs at UCF. So we conduct this study as a call to expand the portfolio of life domains conflicts and health behaviors, and to further study their relationships. We understand that people need to fulfill demands of various roles across multiple life domains, including work, school, and family, but the time is limited. So individuals might prioritize their limited time to these demands over participation in certain or all health behaviors, such as exercise, sleep, and consumption of a nutritious diet. So we hypothesize that there will be a relationship between work, school, family conflicts and participation in multiple health behaviors. The relationship might be linear or nonlinear. And we also hypothesize that there will be some variables that moderate this relationship, including individual level traits that are indicative of the mastery over one's internal and external experiences, and organizational level characteristics that are supportive of work-life balance and employee health. So for our study, we are able to conduct a daily diary study with 73 employed students, and we end up with more than 1,500 observations. More than 3/4 of our students have a part-time job, and about 1/4 of our participants having a full-time job. And we ask them to complete morning and evening surveys, and we also ask them to wear a device called Actigraph. For the measures, we collect self-report, work, family, school conflicts, and for our house behavior measures, we have both subjective and objective measures. For example, we collect self-report, exercise duration and intensity. We have Actigraph recorded steps. We have self-report, sleep quantity and quality. We also have Actigraph recorded sleep efficiency. Besides that, in the baseline survey, we collected variables as moderators, including coping, time management skills, core self-evaluations, proactive personality, as well as workplace health climate, perceived organizational support, family supportive supervisor behaviors. So based on the multi-level modeling, we find that there is a curvilinear relationship between work, family, school conflict, and daily exercise time. And this relationship is moderated by both individual and organizational level variables, including time management skills, proactive personality, and workplace health climate, and family supportive supervised behaviors. For the sleep, we find a linear relationship between work, family, school conflict, and daily sleep quality. And this relationship is moderated by only one individual trait, which is a coping skill. So in summary, work, family, school conflict was associated with participation in multiple health behaviors on a daily level. And we found that individual traits that will moderate this relationship between work, family, school conflicts, and sleep and exercise. Organizational level characteristics will moderate the relationship between work, family, school conflict, and exercise. So we think our study extends the literature by focusing on a wide portfolio of life domains and health behaviors. And one strength of our study is to use both subjective and objective measures to assess health behaviors, such as sleep and exercise. And by using a daily diary study and multi-level modeling, we are able to take into consideration both between and within person variabilities. We hope we gathered some insights that can be used to develop future interventions to promote effective management of health of life domain conflicts and to promote a healthy lifestyle. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Su. I'm sure your work will generate some questions as well. I know I have one, and we'll come back to you shortly. Excuse me. Our next presenter, PPRT awardee, is Dr. Gonzalo Vieira, and he is an associate professor and extension dairy scientist and dairy management at Virginia Tech University. And he has a wide background in this area of work, and he'll be talking with us today about increasing the awareness about nitrogen dioxide as an occupational hazard at dairy and beef farms. All right, go ahead.
All right, thank you so much. Again, I'm a dairy management extension specialist, but in addition, I'm a dairy cow nutritionist. That is what I do for my research. Okay, and as such, we dairy nutritionists and dairy farmers, we are exposed to many hazards, and these projects have been about increasing the awareness. So the title is Increasing the Awareness About Nitrogen Dioxide as an Occupational Hazard at Dairy and Beef Farms. And this is not going to be research presentation, it's more on the extension side, on the outreach side, and that is going to be like my story. So I have no data here, just an exciting story about awareness, and I'm going to use some redundancies from 2019, and I will tell you why. So we started a few years ago working on these video projects, and we started with this project, which was about the possibility of being caught by an avalanche of what we call silage. Silage is the biomass of vegetative material that the cows eat over the year. And if you go to a dairy farm, you will see huge piles of these silages, okay? And once in a while, we go there to take a sample. And we are not aware maybe that this can collapse and actually can kill you, like in this case. Actually, this case was after our first video development. But anyhow, oops, I'm still clicking on my computer. What we did in the past is developing an educational video showing a real-time silage avalanche. That is something as a student I could never see. People used to tell us, be careful, this can happen, but it's very hard to see it. Anyhow, we developed this video. Maybe we released this video in 2017, maybe 2018, and it has been viewed by more than 23,000 people in more than 15 countries. Somehow this video, which was our project, was kind of successful. But let's see a little about the impact of this video. What happened after that? We had a lot of presentation requests from dairy farmers. Can you show your work in state fairs, for example? Material requests from extension educations, meeting requests from lenders and insurance companies. Somehow this was very, very good that our video was being successful and kind of demanding. But there was a particular impact in this project, which was a call from one lawyer, and he presented to me this case. There was an accident. This is what we call a vertical silo, like what you see in that picture there. And this is another way of storing this vegetative material, okay? And this story was about the farmer was going high on the ladder there to the top of the silage, and he suddenly fainted, okay? And his knees that was below, he saw that, he went up, he fainted as well. He dropped from the top of the silo, farm accident, okay? And apparently at that time when I was speaking over the phone with this lawyer, in a nutshell, it was an intoxication with nitrogen dioxide. Apparently nitrogen dioxide is extremely toxic, and in silent conditions is quite frequently in farms, okay? High exposure in farms. I was not aware of this toxicity directly, okay? I will tell you, I will go back that later. So anyhow, somehow we started to search a little more information, and we said, oh, here we have another very nice story to do another educational video about hazards at the dairy farm. So looking into some information, we found out that actually there are several cases of dead people being exposed to this gas. By the way, when you chop the material, you pack it, you have an anaerobic fermentation, and nitrogen dioxide is a byproduct of this bacterial fermentation. So that gas is getting out from the biomass, and within hours of doing that, so the message for farmers is do not be there, do not go up to the silo when you are doing this activity. So anyhow, we found quite a few cases of these accidents, and then we put all these together in one of our many videos, which the video is already on YouTube right now, and it's available to everybody. Now, when does these accidents happen mainly? Usually they happen in the spring when the farmers are cutting spring forages, spring plants, and they're putting those plants, they have a high concentration of protein, therefore nitrogen, and therefore there is a high release of these gases. So what were some of the challenges this year developing this video? One was the seasonality. So next month in March, April, farmers are going to start harvesting these materials. So it's like March, April, May, maybe is going to be the season with the highest risk of having this exposure. And also the other one was the COVID, visiting farmers to get the video shots and all that was kind of challenging. But anyhow, we completed our project. We could finalize the video and it's already there. We are at the stage of looking forward to the impact. How do we do that? Well, as I told you, we put it on YouTube, that is available. We also put newsletters through Extension, Virginia Cooperative Extension. In my case, I already put it on my network in LinkedIn. And also one thing about dairy farmers, there are several communities of Amish farmers. They don't have connectivity, so they cannot reach YouTube. They cannot reach several social media. So what we do, like you see in that picture there, we bring a TV screen, a computer screen, whatever, to different state fairs, and we roll these videos so they can have exposure to this information. Again, if you're intrigued and want to see some of our videos that we developed so far with this program in collaboration with the Central Appalachian Regional ERC, you can go to the VT Dairy Science YouTube channel and you will be able to access all these videos, occupational safety videos. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gonzalo. All right, and our final presenter of her pilot project work is Dr. Jianhua Oh, who is an assistant professor in the Department of Environmental Health Sciences at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. And her work is examining the feasibility of current 3D technology for the selection of better fitting safety eyewear. Dr. Oh?
Thank you, John. Hi, everyone. Today, I'm presenting my study regarding a matching app for safety eyewear. This study was funded by the North Carolina ERC, so I'm thankful for being awarded this grant. And also, Shanira Thomas, she was working on this project, and she's now a graduate of our program. So, in the US, eye injuries account for more than 140,000 disabling work injuries every year, which direct and indirect cost is estimated at over $4 billion. And one of the major reasons that workers sustain eye injuries is that they are wearing the wrong kind of protection for the job. And as PPE is the last line of defense workers rely on, the failure in the field could cause traumatic injury or illness in the workplace. And as you may know, that many safety eyeglasses come in universal sizes. So there is a need to improve the protective eyewear fit for the diverse US workforce. So, our research group has been investigating the development of a fit matching app for smart devices using 3D technology to resolve that fit issue. So the purpose of this pilot study was to examine the feasibility of use of the current 3D technology to identify better fitting safety eyewear to eyewear as an effort to develop a fit matching app. So for that, 30 steps were followed. First, 3 different 3D scanning apps on a smartphone were tested to determine the best app, which could produce the most efficient images. And those were selected basically based on the reviews by the previous users. So you see on the right, they show the scanning process of each app. The QLON 3D and the Scan 3D were tested on an Android phone, and the Terminal 3D was tested on an iPhone, mainly based on the availability of these apps in the specific operating systems. And then two of the Nayoshi headphone sizes, short and wide and long and narrow, were used as head models for scanning. And second, a database of safety eyewear was established by scanning full-frame safety spectacles commercially available using a high-precision 3D scanner. And once the 3D scanner obtained, the best pairs of safety spectacles for each headphone size were determined using anthropometric and gap measurement data. Anthropometric data were obtained by measuring the maximum front breadth of the headphones and the temporal width of each eyewear, as shown in the middle there, using the measurement tool in a CAD program. So the maximum front breadth is the distance between the right and left zygofrontal landmarks of your face, which align with the width of temporal width of eyewear. And then those measurements were compared. And for gap measurements, we adopted this 3M eyewear fit system in which 12 gap locations measured to determine the gap size between the wearer's face and the safety eyewear, as shown at the bottom. And for that, we used the Allen wrenches in different tip sizes. So results, the Terminal 3D app produced the most efficient 3D images, and 4 pairs of spectacles showing those are the top 4 on the right. They were the closest overall match with the short and wide headphone, and for the long and narrow headphone, only 1 pair at the bottom was the closest overall match. So the bottom line is that we confirmed that the use of the current 3D technology was feasible to proceed with our project to develop a fit matching app. Even though we are not showing here all of our data, this is actually a continuing project for us. We've been continuously scanning the other types of spectacles, and also we've been testing other 3D scanning apps. So after all, this project with the developed fit matching app, eventually, we hope that the fit app matching app will allow the workers to identify better fitting safety eyewear based on their facial dimensions, which eventually will lower the possibility of eye injuries. I think that was all for today. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Ho. So we've got a few questions coming in, and I'll start out here. And now for this question is for Dr. Reinhardt. And thinking about mentorship and for incoming vet students, the question was asked, what kind of training or mentorship is typically provided at Kentucky for incoming vet students? As this is one example where inclusion of stress management within professional development training seems pretty reasonable, but it's typically not part of a degree program. And the attendee also goes on to state that they believe that faculty should play a functional role to provide needed perspectives and support.
Great, thanks for that question. So as far as pre-veterinary students at University of Kentucky, I don't know of any kind of training. When students go to veterinary school, there is often professional development training within the veterinary schools, and it's becoming more frequent as we're identifying these issues of mental health within the veterinary profession. So within the last 5 years, there's been some big curriculum changes within veterinary schools to begin to offer more training in self-care, in professional skills and communication and things like that. As far as I know, this program that I have developed is the first to target specifically new veterinary graduates and recent grads within the United States. And so, yeah, I mean, as far as training and mentorship provided at Kentucky, I can't think of anything specifically at this point.
And as add on to that, I was curious, as far as you mentioned that young veterinarians have lower mental health and well-being, and part of that is feeling alone in transition to practice. But is it also, how does the work contribute? And I'm curious as far as the dealing with animals that are about to pass away. Is that a contributor as well, or?
Yes, thanks for that question as well. So there's multiple factors that go into the stress, especially in early career. That being said, the stress levels of all veterinarians have been shown to be higher, not just new veterinary graduates. And poor well-being is associated with most veterinarians, but it's especially high in young veterinary graduates. So some of the factors that go into that, difficult interactions with clients can be especially challenging, ethical dilemmas. So there's a lot of stress that comes from working with animals and working with clients who have limited financial resources and trying to provide care given the limited resources. So knowing that there's something that you are able to do, but not being able to do that can be really tough. And I think that does tie into sometimes euthanasia, because we do often have to euthanize animals that may have a treatable condition, but a fatal condition that's not able to be treated because there's not enough financial resources available, which I think is unique to the veterinary profession. Obviously, in human medicine, there's things that we can do if people don't have health insurance and things like that. But in the animal world, veterinarians are also running a business and trying to manage massive amounts of student debt. So I think there's lots of issues that go into the stress level, but those are just a few that come to the top of my head.
I can appreciate that. Again, as a owner of a 22-year-old cat that I have to give daily thyroid medication and potassium, just dealing with that is enough for my day to give me a need for Tylenol. Thank you. This question is for Dr. Su. In thinking about what you were discussing with the work-life balance and measuring that, particularly with a focus on teenage workers, adolescents. I'm the parent of two teenagers, so this resonates with me. I'm curious, were you collecting data during COVID, and yes or no? And then if not, is that something that you plan future data collection to look at? How has this affected that dynamic? When I think about from an approach of a total worker health approach, thinking of safety, health, and well-being, that certainly resonates. So I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's definitely an interesting question. So first, I want to clarify that our participants are actually college students. So even though they're young, they're not that young. So for our study, we collect data definitely before the COVID, but it's definitely a good thing to continue this study with after COVID, because I can definitely see how the conflicts has been changed or shift after the COVID situation.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. And we particularly, I know all of us have dealt with or interacted with our college students, that many are isolated, living in an apartment off campus by themselves for months at a time. So, yeah. Okay. A question was raised for Dr. Ferreira that regarding the silage safety video. And I know you had mentioned that it had been placed on YouTube as well as shown at places like state fairs.
Right.
Is there a plan for long-term, like future research, evaluating this in terms of knowledge or perception changes or actual changes in behavior?
Yes, that's a good question. Yes, the idea is there. Honestly, I wouldn't know how to implement that type of assessment, but yes, we are in the stage of letting it grow for a couple of years and then evaluate the final impact. Again, we know that we are reaching a lot of people on YouTube in a lot of countries. all that. Now, how can we track those? I don't know how to do it. I think I need to work on that. But yes, that is definitely an idea that we are spinning around. Once we have kind of the different videos all together, okay? One thing that also we are considering is making like a specific platform about safety in a dairy farm, okay? And we already did the video of the avalanche, we did the video of harvesting the silage, and now we did the video about the intoxication wild and silent. So.
Yeah, I understand the difficulty with that. We did a video series for construction industry, and we monitored the hits on the site, but we don't know as of yet, the actual any changes, but we're working on that. So thank you. And this question for Dr. O. Thinking about your future works in the 3D scanning apps for safety eyewear, is there a plan for that as far as, or is it adaptable for like prescription safety eyewear as far as the ability to do that?
So yeah, actually we put R3 grant for that to include those guys wearing eyeglasses. So that's gonna be our next step. We also want to include the safety goggles in our project. That's our further direction. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So the future research with the R03.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Then I know Farzaneh is still with us, and she's back up on screen. That's good. We're still working well despite the weather disadvantages in Texas. Question was raised regarding the MCT use and the ease of use of that, and whether it's adaptable. We know the literature. We hear instances about the crashes that law enforcement have, particularly in high-speed chases. And is there something there that you're looking at or plan for the future to do comparative as far as what the impact is with the MCTs, and change anything with that as far as chase patterns or changing the policies there, anything of that nature?
Okay, thank you for your question. So can you hear my voice clearly?
Yes.
Okay, so for the pursuit situation, the recommendation that they had for us was that because they need to focus on driving tasks, it's much better if they can have feedback when they touch the touch screen. So it can be a feedback or vibrotactile feedback, so they can do their task on MCT without looking at the MCT, so they can fully concentrate on the driving. Click on the icons or buttons, it gives them a vibrotactile feedback, so they can understand how to work with MCT with experience.
That's great. Thank you. Another follow-up question for the group is thinking about the challenges of data collection, and with setting up research, whether it's primary data collection, secondary analysis. We know the old adage is add at least double the time that you expect, but if you think it's going to take a month, it's going to take 2 months or 3 months. So in the challenges there, are there readily identifiable data challenges in your collection that you might change your approach going forward with future research? And anybody can jump in. I see the group's thinking. Yeah, go ahead.
Speaking for myself, again, as I said in my first slide, my project was not about collecting data. One thing that
are you asking about collection or on-road data collection? Hear me?
Go ahead, Gonzalo.
No. So anyhow, for us was kind of challenging having the access to the farmer. okay, to obtain to obtain what we needed to develop our video. But again, I know that what you're asking, I'm trying to fill the silence here. You asked about the data collection. In our case specifically, it was not so much about the data. Other than, yeah, well, there was some data mainly on looking the cases, right?
Yeah. Well, no, that's a good point, though. When you think about the interaction with these populations and diverse work groups, I mean, I think of my research with firefighters that there's a cultural environment there that is not always easy to break into with first responders.
Absolutely.
And definitely extended the time in my initial research, but I learned that, that we have to adapt in our approach. And yeah, so that's a good point.
Can I make a comment now that you mentioned that you work with firefighters and first responders? Because yes, that case I told you about, that boy that was recovering, actually the boy, he ended up dying, and he was the third person that died in that accident. And the other two persons were firefighters.
Wow.
And they were, ironically, I don't know if ironic is the right word, but curiously, those two firefighters were the dairy farmers. So it seems like even though you can know about the hazard, I assume that maybe the boy was the guy going there, and maybe the father and the uncle went for the boy, and the three of them died. And anyhow, even though maybe many times we are aware about the hazard, we do a bad practice of what we're doing, right? Maybe that boy should have never gone to the top of the site.
Yeah, we often find the challenge in, I guess, the proverbial practicing what we preach. Right. I'm known as the safety guy in my family, and I have fallen off a ladder and shattered my elbow. I've fallen and hurt my back. I've hit my head. Yeah, so and I don't always follow what I know better to do, especially if there's an emergency. So I guess a nice lead in here is we're approaching the end. Take a few minutes, each of you, just to think about. I always like to ask that, we have a lot of student attendees at this event, and many planning to go into academic positions or certainly research positions. So what advice would you give our students, observers today, as far as either approaching the challenges of your research or your planning or any other area?
I can start. I was going to build upon what you all had been talking about that trust aspect of the population that you're working with. Part of my training in community and leadership development, we discuss a lot about, making sure that we are including the people that are having the research done on them as in part of the research, and what building that trust with those people, so that we're not just extracting from them, but we're also helping those people. So that's something that I think about going forward with research, is to try not to be the fly in, get what you need and fly out, and always be sure to share what you've learned with the people that you're doing your research with. And then as far as the previous question about the time of research and methods and collection of data, I think planning ahead with human subjects research with how long the IRB process takes, because that is quite a process that can be filled with delays. So often we're ready to go with our data collection, but sometimes the ethical approval takes time.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to pay attention about how long the IRB could take. I think we also encountered that issue, so I can definitely speak to that. And because in our study, we use multiple sources for data collection. We have our Qualtrics survey, we also have our active graph. So using this new device also causes an issue, like the IRB might not trust that the device you're using, or would that have the privacy protection, something like that. And also you need to educate your participants that how you're going to use this device, and then how to protect this device for the daily usage. And I think, but even though there might be some issues with using those new devices for data collection, I would still say this might be the future direction, but the combination of like measures from different sources might be the future direction. In IO psychology, I think the issue was that oftentimes we use self-report measures too often. So I think building upon that, in addition to the self-reported measures, we probably might need to include those objective measures, which might provide us more information. And based on those new measures, and then the next question comes to what models or what statistical tools we can use to analyze those data, because the data we're going to obtain from those devices will be different from the questionnaires. So how are we going to tackle those data and then really make use of those big data will be the next question we may want to answer for our research.
Very good. Yeah, self-report is kind of a minefield, that's for sure. Other thoughts there, as far as your thoughts? I think particularly Farzaneh, as a doctoral student in your work, what would you share with your peer colleagues as far as the expectations of research or the challenges, things to think about? I know I put you on the spot, sorry.
My advice I usually give to my students is don't be shy on trying and be yourself, be curious, try to shine on your own.
So I was a direct PhD student, so I didn't have any research experience. So when I started that, it was very tough for me. And also we had many challenges with my advisor because she's an assistant professor. But after a while, when you learn how to do research and then how to write manuscript, I think it had some challenges, especially when you get rejects from journals, like you don't respect that. But when you see that your name is on a paper or you actually published a journal, I think it's very pleasant. It had many challenges, but I think it's worth it.
Yeah, the challenges of IRB, let alone publication. You made me go back to a frightening place when my first publication, and I got my feedback from the editor, and I was very upset. And my senior advisor looked at it and was like, this is very benign. This is great. You got to revise and resubmit. And I was about ready to cry. So I understand. You have to develop a thick skin. That's for sure.
Sorry, was your question specifically about IRB? Because I lost my connection and I thought that you were asking about the PhD experience in general.
Oh, just the PhD experience. But earlier, there was a discussion about the IRB, just the challenges there. And certainly that's been most evident, I would say, here during COVID for any of our COVID-related work, trying to expedite, when possible, the IRB process, because we know it is laborious. All right, well, we finished a couple minutes early, but I want to thank you, all of you. It's some exciting research in diverse areas, and we really look forward to hearing about your work in the future, and wish you the very best. And the next steps here will, as we're finishing up, remind you again, we have one more PPRT session coming up after Center Director Updates break. So stay tuned for that, then the final PPRT session, and then we'll finish up with the announcement of the poster winners and closings by Dr. Kane. So we look forward to seeing you then.
Thank you.
Thank you.